What's up, everybody? I'm Evan Lasek. Welcome back to another episode of If I Were in Your Shoes. This will be the third episode. We're going to talk about the AFC West this time. First, I want to apologize. It's been a crazy busy week, so I'm just getting this out now. We're going to start with the most newsworthy story. The Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions, just locked up, well, not just locked up, but they recently locked up two key players, Pat Mahomes and Chris Jones. The world has kind of been discussing this already, so we don't have to go much in there. And if I were in the GM shoes or the head coach's shoes, if I were Andy Reid or the GM of the Chiefs, there's not much else that you need to do this offseason. You brought back your entire core. You brought back everybody you need. You drafted a running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think, honestly, they're going to do fine. Pat Mahomes' contract is, of course, $500 million over 10 years. Seems a bit excessive, but if you got your guy, you got your guy. I'm very cautious with taking 10-year contracts. They can usually end up badly, but this dude's 24 years old. He's the MVP, Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl champion, led the league in touchdowns his first season starting. So Pat Mahomes is a no-brainer. I'm giving him all this money. It's a little scary, but he's earned it. At his age, for what he's done in this sport, has been absolutely bizarre. So when you got your guy, you lock him up immediately. That's what they did. I think that was a fantastic job. $500 million is a little bit scary of a price, but they got the contract worked out. So, yes, later down the road, it's going to be difficult to bring in guys, especially after Tyreek Hill's contract expires, Sammy Watkins' contract expires. But right now, we're thinking just this year, and I think getting him locked up is going to make him happy. And who knows, maybe in the future, he's going to take a little bit of pay cut. We see players like that do that all the time for the better of their team. He just wanted to set the tone for the rest of the league, like, hey, I'm the best guy. That's why I'm earning this money. So kudos to Pat Mahomes and good job to the Kansas City Chiefs on signing him. That is a great pickup. Again, $500 million over 10 years. Very scary numbers, but you got to imagine this is going to be the best player in the league for the next 10 years. I guarantee that. Next talk is Chris Jones just signed a 4-year, $85 million contract with the Chiefs. This is a team that had like $177 in cap room at the beginning of free agency. So Chris Jones' contract is very front-heavy, meaning the next 2 years are going to be a lot of money, and then when Pat Mahomes' contract kicks in, it's going to be a little bit less to make the cap room go a little bit smoother with all this. So signing Chris Jones is a key piece to the defensive line. We saw them kind of hold the San Francisco 49ers run game a little bit. He was huge there, run stopper, big guy up in the middle, defensive tackle. I think having him on that D-line is going to really boost everything up. Keeping him there for the next 4 years is going to be huge. He's 25, I believe, so having him there for the long term is huge. And hopefully he can keep his play up for the next 4 years. If he can't, then that's still going to be fine. Your offense is going to be killer regardless. So the Chiefs have done everything right this offseason, in my opinion. So I think there's not really as much that you need to say about what you should do, what I would do if I were managing them, because they have done everything correctly, and at this point there's not really much else you can do. You can train the young guys like McCole Hardman, but even he could be gone eventually. Now they have no cap room. Tyrann Mathieu aging, so maybe prepare young guys. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they kept their core players. I think that's huge. They brought back, I think, all 22 of their players and then drafted some, so this is the year for a repeat. I could see them winning this year. I could see them winning next year. I could see them winning every year for the foreseeable future. Their team is just insane. They have so many players locked up, and I think I would be so happy if I were Andy Reid to be just coaching that team right now, because that is a scary football team that you have locked up for a very long time. The only thing I would do is just make sure that you're on top of everybody. You make sure that your players aren't getting injured. We saw Pat Mahomes go out 2 or 3 games last year. We don't want to see any suspensions. We want to make sure that everybody's on that field at all times. I saw in Pat Mahomes' contract that they've limited him in everything except for football. Football is really the only thing he can do with his life that'll put him in harm's way, and I don't blame them. When you invest that much money in a guy, you're going to control their lives, basically. So if you just limit injuries, you make sure that off-field shenanigans, as I like to say, are limited, then your football team's going to be perfectly fine. So congratulations, Kansas City Chiefs. There's really not much else that you can do this offseason or for the next few off seasons. You got your guys. You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire back there at running back. He was crazy at LSU. I really like this guy, and I think if you just prepare him for week 1 starter, you're going to be set for the rest of the season. So we'll move over to the Raiders, where there's a few more things that you can do with the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, Las Vegas. I said it correctly. I was very terrified. I was going to say Oakland at least 3 times this video. But I really like the Raiders draft. They took Henry Ruggs at 11, which was a little bit scary. I thought he was going to fall. I thought Judy was going to go ahead of him, but Henry Ruggs is blazing fast. That's just what the Raiders like. They have Tyrell Williams out there. They got Hunter Renfrow in the slot. Now you got Henry Ruggs to just take the top off the ball, and he is fast. He, 4.28, I think, in the 40? That dude can fly. So use him constantly. He's your deep ball guy. Williams is a possession guy, and Hunter Renfrow is going to be great in the slot. And then if you mix that with Josh Jacobs, I think their offense could have the potential to be scary. They just brought in Jason Witten to back up their tight end, who I can't remember their name, Darren Waller, that's what his name is. But they just brought in a second tight end to help with blocking, keep Jacobs, keep running, and their pass game is going to be electric this year, in my opinion. As long as everybody can stay happy and healthy, no suspensions, no anything, I think the mixture of Renfrow, Waller, Witten, Ruggs, and Williams is going to be insane. And if you mix that with a healthy Josh Jacobs, that is going to be an explosive offense. But the main thing I want to do if I'm the Las Vegas Raiders is a QB competition. You just brought in Marcus Mariota. I thought that was a little bit questionable, but you saw that John Gruden was trying to weave his way out of Derek Carr and his contract, and I don't blame him. Carr is a great quarterback, but he needs somebody who can take him to the top. Gruden is all about speed right now, so he brought in Mariota, who's a great running quarterback, brought in Henry Ruggs, who's a blazing fast wide receiver. I think throwing a QB competition between Mariota and Carr will really bring out the best in both quarterbacks. Mariota was great in the first couple seasons at Tennessee, but they didn't really have that offense that fit him. So hopefully over in Las Vegas now, that can kind of electrify his career and give him a jump start. Carr, however, is 28, 29 years old, so he's up there at nearing the end of his agreement with the Las Vegas Raiders. Kind of like what we saw the Bengals do to Andy Dalton. He's at the end of his contract. They're trying to bring in another guy, get him out. They got rid of Dalton. So I think Carr is going to reach the end of his Raiders career very soon, which is rough to see because he has played good with the circumstances that he's played in. I think Mariota, however, could have a bit of a resurgence in his career at Las Vegas, and hopefully really see that rookie Mariota that we saw. He's great on his feet, and his accuracy is a little bit off, but again, a QB competition will really spice things up. We saw Tannehill take over after that QB competition in Tennessee, so maybe Mariota will be fueled to take over a starting job again, and I really hope to see it. I think that would just be in the best interest of the Raiders for their new home. The Raiders just drafted Damon Arnette in the first round. I thought it was a good pick. I thought it was a little high, little bit of a reach, but they needed a corner. They really liked Arnette. Gruden also kind of reached on Henry Ruggs in a lot of opinions, including mine. I thought for sure, as I said earlier, Judy would go as the first receiver, but it was Ruggs. So if you see your guy, you take your guy. That's what the Raiders did last year with Cleveland Farrell too, which would surprise a lot of people. But here we are. So they just brought in Amukamara as the other outside corner this past offseason. So now Damon Arnette is going to slide into that second corner on the outside. Hopefully that he shows why he was taken in the first round, because Raiders fans are kind of expecting a lot right now, even though new city, it could be a new team, new face of the franchise. I don't expect a lot from them, honestly, because of the young talent they brought in and because of the QB controversy going on, all the defensive struggles. So hopefully Arnette can really step up and show why he was taken in this early in the draft, why he was a first-round pick for the Raiders, and he can really explode. But the Raiders really did bring in a lot of talent. As I said earlier, they brought in Jason Witten this past offseason. They brought in Nelson Aguilar, which was, as an Eagles fan, that is extremely questionable. It's like you've never watched tape on this guy because he's not good. He cannot catch the ball. But who knows? Maybe like Mariota, it's a resurgence in his career. I'm going to guess no. That's just my completely unbiased opinion. But they brought in Amukamara, who's a great corner. They brought in Kwiatkowski from Chicago, who's a great linebacker. Corey Littleton from the Rams, who's another great linebacker. Cleveland Farrell's going into his second season. I'm really excited to see this Raiders defense. If they can work out their secondary struggles, then I think they'll finally be recovered from getting rid of Khalil Mack. Their D-line is pretty good. Their linebackers are really good, but it's just the secondary that's really struggling. And when you mix that with the offensive struggles that they faced last year, it doesn't really make for a good team. So if you can get these guys all in the same scheme, all working together, I think this Raiders defense can really, really take a step up from last season. That's just, I'm hoping. Nelson Aguilar is really going to hold him down on offense, though, so I'll just cut him out. God, get him out of there. But we're going to go to the Los Angeles Chargers. I didn't say San Diego for the first time in like 2 years. There's a lot of movement in the AFC West. Good gosh, just stay in one place, please. It's really confusing. But the Chargers, they just drafted Justin Herbert with the 6th pick in the draft, found their franchise guy. Don't start him yet. He's not a week 1 starter. He's got to prepare a little bit. You have Tyrod Taylor. I wish they would have kept Phillip Rivers to kind of mentor Herbert a little bit for at least another season, but this is what they wanted to do. I think Rivers would have been a much better mentor towards young Herbert, but Taylor's going to be their best chance to win right now, they said. So Taylor hasn't played in, I think, a year or a season or two. He's been the backup in LA, so hopefully he's still got it. I say you keep with him. If he's winning, then you keep him the whole season, but if things aren't going your way, by week 10, I think you need to try Herbert out. He was your first-round pick for a reason. You got to see what they did. What the Broncos did last year with Drew Lock, he was out the whole season, but then he came back, played 6 games, I believe, and played fantastically. So I think that's what you have to do here with Justin Herbert. You see what you got in your starter, but then Herbert's your future. You throw him out there. You say you've had time to prepare. Now it's time to show us why we took you this early. He played great at Oregon. He's got a great arm, and he's great at mobility. He can throw on the run. He's very elusive for a guy his build and his height. So Tyrod Taylor is going to be the much more safe option right now, but I say Herbert takes over by week 10. You get him ready for an NFL regular season game, and I don't think he'll disappoint. I really liked his potential coming out of college. I see why they took him first round, and I'm just excited to see what he can do. He reminds me a lot of Drew Lock last season, where Lock was supposed to be the starter. He was out with an injury, came in and just blew up for the Denver Broncos. I'm really expecting the same out of Justin Herbert, and I really hope I see that. Kenneth Murray is going to be a huge linebacking addition. The dude is insanely fast for a linebacker, great ball skills, and I wish that my team, the Eagles, would have taken him, honestly, but we took a receiver. It's whatever. We're not talking about the Eagles right now. Chargers taking Kenneth Murray. That's going to be huge for the linebackers. They have some really good ones, but I think he's going to instantly become a starter on that team, and he's going to be the signal caller by next season. He's going to be fantastic, and if they develop him correctly, I think it's going to be perfect. This part right here is going to be a little tricky because you don't really want to see it. But Joey Bosa has never wanted to play for the Chargers. Not ever since he was drafted, he did not want to play for the Chargers. So you either pay him handsomely. You either give him a $140 million contract, or you have to get rid of him, because trading him would blow. It would be bad. Getting rid of him is very difficult, but he's made it clear that he does not want to play for the Chargers anymore. He never has. Never, ever, never. So getting rid of him is difficult, but just think of the compensation you get for him. Draft picks for the future, players who want to play in LA. Not a lot of players want to play in LA right now, but you have Joey Bosa. I think giving him all that money that he wants, he may not want to play there, but if you give him enough money talks in this league. We've seen it everywhere. It doesn't matter where you're playing. If you get paid, you're going to play. So if you extend him handsomely, if you give him that 5-year, $140, $150 million contract, make him the highest paid defensive end in the game, there's not a chance that he doesn't want to play for you, honestly. So, but if he declines a mega contract like that, then you have to get rid of him. There's no point in letting him loose in free agency or franchise tagging him, because he can just sit out, forfeit his contract. If he doesn't want that money, sadly, you got to ship him away, get something in return for him, and maybe high draft picks, flip those for another great defensive end. You may not see another great defensive end like Joey Bosa anytime soon, but you got to think about your franchise first. So if he's giving me problems with signing and not wanting to play for me, you just got to get rid of him at this point. It's a business, and there's no hard feelings, but he's showed that he does not want to play in LA. He said multiple times he wants to go play with his brother in San Francisco. That would be insane for the 49ers defensive line, but it's going to be really difficult to say goodbye to this guy, and we've seen how franchise tagging works on players that really don't want to play there or play that season. They'll forfeit their contract if that means they get what they want. So I could see Joey Bosa declining a contract and sitting out for next season, or not this upcoming season, but the season after, if he doesn't get the money. But that's in the future. Try extending him this season. If he keeps declining, then you may have no choice anymore. Hunter Henry, they tried to bring him back during the season last year. He really struggled. He was dealing with injury. He's dealt with injuries his whole career. So you have to take it easy with him. You have to make sure that you're not putting him in harm's way, taking it easy on snaps, using a second tight end to kind of help him. Antonio Gates was a great tight end for the Chargers for a very long time. He kept coming back because Hunter Henry kept getting injured. Henry is a fantastic tight end who just can't seem to stay on the field. So you have to take it easy on him. You have to work on his injuries. You have to make sure he's fully healed before you just throw him back out there, or else he could be done. We've seen it before with people who keep getting injured, like Andrew Luck. He was like, I'm done with this. I don't want to be playing hurt anymore. So you have to take it easy with Hunter Henry. Give him limited snaps throughout preseason for the very short preseason, and then work his way back in through the regular season. I'm saying week 1, you don't play him every down like they want to, but you give him a lot of breaks because that man is already broken down through injuries, and I don't want to see him get any worse. He's your star tight end. You really need him on the field, but sometimes to have somebody on the field more often, you need to take him off the field at first to make sure that he's fine. So taking it slow with him is going to be a main priority for the Chargers, especially if you want everybody to develop properly. That's just my opinion. If they still play him, then, his talent is crazy. I would still play him, but I wouldn't play him. They may play him. I'm just taking it easy on him. And lastly, we just saw Melvin Gordon leave the Chargers. That was one of the guys who did not want to play there, oddly enough. Don't know why nobody wants to play for the Chargers, but I would use and abuse Austin Eckler's abilities as a running back. He's got blazing speed. His receiving back abilities are insane, and he can make cuts beautifully. We saw it last season. He was a fantasy god, and that was with Melvin Gordon slowly coming back. So with Eckler as the number 1 and only back in LA right now, I think his value goes up even more. You really give him the ball, you feed him the rock, and you make sure that he touches the ball at least 20 times a game. He's going to be your workhorse, and I can honestly see him blowing up and maybe having a Pro Bowl selection this year, especially with Tyrod Taylor being quarterback and then Herbert being quarterback. You're going to be running the ball a lot. It's not because they're bad quarterbacks. It's just because they're new. He's going to be a great check down guy. Their chemistry is going to get better and better with the receivers. But right now, Eckler is going to be your main guy that you want to feed the rock to. Keenan Allen's on the outside. He's a great receiver, but new QBs and a new system, it's going to be a little bit before you see them airing the ball out consistently. The last team in the AFC West is the Denver Broncos. I really like the Broncos this year. They've always had a decent team, but now they have Drew Lock, and if he can stay healthy for 16 games, they are a serious playoff contender out of the AFC West. Their defense is insanely good, but what I want to talk about right now is Drew Lock's abilities. He played, I believe, 6 games last year, 5 or 6 games after coming back from injury, and he just tore up. He had 5 wins, I believe, and his QBR, touchdown to interception ratio, all of it, very good for a rookie quarterback. I could have seen him winning Rookie of the Year if he played all 16 games. So I'm letting Drew Lock loose. I'm really letting him throw the ball as much as he wants to, and I'm just going to let him sling the rock around. They just added 2 new receivers in KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy, 2 of the best receivers in the draft, in my opinion. Hamler out of the slot is going to be blazing fast, and you have one of the best route runners in Jerry Jeudy. Not to mention you have Cortland Sutton, a huge target on the outside who can really jump up there, moss you, and then still beat you in a foot race. So these 3 receivers, they're really helping Drew Lock, and I can honestly see them going to the playoffs this year. If they develop a chemistry early, I think they're going to be a scary, scary team out of the AFC West. So I'm just making sure I get Hamler and I get Jerry Jeudy prepared for this upcoming season, get them some chemistry between those 3 and then Lock, and I think this team can really take a step forward and with the offensive production. Not to mention just adding Melvin Gordon to the running back core, along with Phillip Lindsay. I think that's going to be a scary 1-2 punch. You have Phillip Lindsay's speed, but you have the pure running ability of Melvin Gordon. I would name Melvin Gordon the starting running back this upcoming season, and then have Phillip Lindsay in a third down situation, catch out of the backfield, because Melvin Gordon is more of a head-first runner. I think Lindsay's the kind of guy who can bust it out. So he's your east to west running back, while Melvin Gordon's more of a north-south guy. So I think Melvin Gordon should be named the number one starter. They just signed him this past season. Apparently they had troubles with Phillip Lindsay as a every down back. They were always looking for another running back for a committee, and I think Melvin Gordon's going to be a key one. So Vic Fangio is really adding to his offense, and I really like what he's doing. I would have done the same thing. Bolster the offense first, because your defense has always been good. Yes, you just lost Chris Harris, but you just brought in 2 brand new corners. I forget, AJ Boye is one. I forget the other one right now. But it's a little bit scary losing both your corners, but it's still going to be fine. Justin Simmons is a great free safety. They just brought in Kareem Jackson for strong safety. So I can see them still playing fantastic football. It's going to be a little bit to adjust to the scheme. But the good thing is your defensive line and your linebackers are still some of the best in the league. So mixing this new offense with the stellar defense that you already had, I think is just going to be really, really problematic for other teams in the AFC West, including the AFC. If Drew Lock continues to progress, I think this team's going to be even scarier than at the end of the season last year. They really caused some problems, and I can see them going even further, especially if Drew Lock gets that chemistry with Hamler, Sutton, and Jerry Jeudy on the outside. Not to mention Noah Fant at tight end is going to be fantastic. They just drafted a center, so their offensive line's all returning except for their center. He's brand new, so it's going to be a little bit of a growing pain there. But this is a new team. I am honestly terrified for the other teams, the AFC West, minus the Chiefs. The Chiefs are always going to be up there. This is the Broncos, the Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs, all the way up there. So I don't even think you can see how high my arm just went. But Broncos are my underdog team that can make the playoffs this year, especially if Vic Fangio keeps doing what he did. All right, guys, that's all my topics here for the AFC West. I'm not really sure how much I've talked at this point, but I feel like I was going really fast. Hopefully I wasn't. The AFC West was really crazy this past offseason, honestly. I'm really excited to see the competition. Next week, we're going to talk about the last AFC conference, the AFC South. A lot of interesting stuff going on down there. So if you like this video, please share, and we're getting close for football season, guys. Hopefully it stays that way, and I'm really excited to see how it goes. All right, have a good one, guys.
Thank you for watching our latest edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also follow us on Twitter at PSSNTV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.